Morning, everybody. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about, especially as a relatively newer author. I've been writing about 10 years ago, 7 books out. Um, Done pretty well. There's been some decent circulation numbers, but I hear a lot about, oh, you should have that one made into a movie. Well, especially about that book right there. And it's a lot more difficult process than you would think. It's not just, you show up in Hollywood with a book and go, hey, here you go, let's go make a film, right? Because that book, especially, I mean, it's about a nuclear war and destruction of cities and millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people, and, air battles and parachute shots. I mean, paratroopers, special ops. That's an expensive movie to make, right? That's 90, $80 million at minimum, unless you get some big names in it, which of course you would want. Otherwise, you're not going to make back your $80 million. So that really gets into the question of what is Hollywood there to do? Is it there to, serve the whims of people, or is it there to make money? Okay, it is there to entertain. Absolutely. It is not there to entertain at all costs, no matter what. It is there to make money for investors. People put money into the movies in a hope to getting a little more money back out of the movie than they put into the movie. Yes, as a writer, I would love to have both of these made into films, but they ain't gonna be cheap, right? So it boiled down to, not just can I show up and have this one done or that one done, or Force of Assassins, or any others. It boils down really to what can be done on a budget that you can at least break even on or better with very little to no risk. Because if you're going to put $100 million into something, so pretend for a moment that you're Paramount, any of the big houses, you're going to put $100 million on the line and say, yes, we're going to get this money back once this goes to the box office or to streaming in some fashion, or your investors are going to fire you, right? That's just the way it goes. They're publicly traded companies, so they have to be responsible to the people that hold shares. Like it or not, that's the way it works. So, if any of my stuff's going to get made, first off, I know there's been other first-time authors that have had massive budgets, J.K. Rowling, Tom Clancy, there's some out there that it has happened. And I'm not saying it's impossible, so, it could occur at some point. But out of any of my work that ever has a chance, I think, to being transitioned over to screen first, it's probably this one. This is the Diocese Dilemma. And I didn't write it specifically to say, oh, I want to go get a movie made. This was actually the first book idea I ever had. This It's about Father Frank Santini. He's a Catholic priest. I know Catholic priests don't wear robes like that normally. It just bear with me a second. But it's about Father Frank Santini. He's a Catholic priest he's frustrated because people keep coming into the confessional using it as a get out of hell free card. They're not really repentant. They just come in and say, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm forgiven." Right? Ha ha ha! I can go do it again and again and again and again, and I can keep being forgiven, and that's cool. Not really the way it works. So in a decaying society, where morals are questionable and kind of going by the wayside, what's a priest to do, right? Well, if you read the Bible carefully, and I grew up Catholic, and my dad was a very active Catholic. In fact, before he was a software engineer, he was studying to be a priest. He was in the seminary. It You'll find weird things in there, right? So eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. There's a lot more to that passage, right? So if you read the whole section, the laws of God are above those of man. So if a priest does something and it's within the laws of God, does it really matter here on earth? Is it okay? According to the Bible, it is. Um, if So he finds himself with this sort of quandary of what do you do? And that is his version of it, at least my fictional version of it was, let's go take those who are the worst sinners and they don't really deserve absolution here on earth. Let's make sure they go meet St. Peter and he can sort it out. Do you get into heaven and are you forgiven? Or do you go someplace else that's not quite as pleasant? So Silver City or the exact opposite of the Silver City. Um, and so, our priest becomes a serial killer. Now, notice a couple of things here. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Priests are the Marines of God, essentially. Laws of God above laws of man. Is he really a serial murderer, or is he just doing God's justice here on earth? Especially if the punishments for the sinners fit the crimes. So what do you do with a child molester? What do you do to that guy? What do you do with people who have committed some horrific sins to make them see the error of their ways? And does he get bloodthirsty? And do the police find him? Can the police find him? I mean, he's using the confessional where nobody knows anything that goes on in there except you and the priest. And how do you sort out that mess if you're the cops? Um, it and do you want to find him because he's taken out bad people? And so do the cops like, well, let's let him go, or do we really go dig for him? How do you deal with that? And more importantly, would the church cover it up? Church has covered up some terrific, horrific things over time. Um, that's a whole subject of another video, but I actually researched that one a lot when I was writing this book. And having grown up Catholic, you kind of hear a lot of things about it, right? So it lends itself to some questions of does the church cover it up or not? Does the church take an active role in helping this guy, or what goes on, and how high up inside the church does that go? So I think if anything ever gets made into a film, it's probably going to be this one. It's a fun read. It's one of the newest one I have out actually, and it will have a sequel to it. So it was absolutely a lot of fun to write. Although some of the people that have read the murder scenes have looked at me and gone like, "You are really one sick, twisted motherfucker." I was like, okay, maybe, but it's a sick and twisted world we live in. So to write that book, I studied a lot of sort of Catholic history, a lot of Catholic cover-up history, a lot of serial killer stuff to see just how sick and twisted and depraved these guys get. And I also studied some of the early days of the mafia, which ties in with the book. You'll have to read that for yourself. But it was an interesting book to write. It was my absolute first story idea, but it was probably my sixth, I think, seventh book published. Because it just took me a while to kind of get it right, and I wasn't a good enough writer yet to really kind of pull that one off. So I worked on other stuff, and that one's always been in the back of my head, and finally wound up on paper. So it's probably the one I'm most proud of. But if anything's ever going to transition to screen, it's going to be that one. I think it could be this one. The sales numbers on this one have been very good. The sequel's been great. There is a part three coming. It is getting its way onto paper. Okay, getting away on a computer, not really on paper. But it's that one was probably the one I'm the most, I won't say proud of, but that is the one that was probably the most personal to me. So I hope everybody has a great day. This transition over from book to screen is not as straightforward as you think. And remember, Hollywood does need to actually make money back, or they don't get to make us a next movie, right? So if you're $100 million at something, you only return five. You don't get a second set of $100 million to go make another film, right? That's just not the way it works. So hopefully one of these will get made. I am talking to some people on the West Coast, a couple of people who are on the production side, which is really where the big decisions are made, about two different ones, that being one and this being the other. So we'll see where it goes. Everybody have a great day.